Welcome to the Peer Purpose Podcast. Such a delight to be here with you. It's been a little bit. We've been off schedule, but we're back on schedule. And I have an amazing thing for you tonight. We have a special guest in the building, Shaun Swiger, a.k.a. Swags. Shaun, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come on tonight.
Oh, man. We've been talking about this forever, and I'm blessed and honored that you decided to say yes to this, because a lot of people don't step out like that. And so it's really cool to be able to have you on the pod, man. So my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. It's going to take us all. I say that all the time. It's going to take us all to help this young generation step up and step out and really call them up to who we know they can be, right?
Exactly.
And so I wanted to bring you on today because you're in schools. So Shaun is he's a teacher and a coach, assistant coach for football and wrestling. Matter of fact, you guys had a really good year. I got to more events this year wrestling than I ever have.
Yeah.
Partly because I have a really good family friend, like a little brother to me, Wyatt Horner. Shout out Wyatt Horner on the team. And I was a sponsor.
126 pounder.
126. It did really well.
He did really well as a freshman.
Actually,
it wrestled really well this year.
So it was cool to see that. And then but we just got to know each other and came and spoke to the team in December-ish, I believe.
Yeah, it was right at the beginning of our season. Yeah. Like the week after we came, that first week of December.
Yeah, and so me and you were able to hit it off, and we talked about, I said, hey, man, podcast, you should come on it. And so you're here. Love that you're here. Teacher, coach, sped for 10 years, special education.
Yeah.
No, that probably, I can't wait to hear a little bit about that, because I know that was an evolving thing over the years, right?
Yeah, it was.
And then you're a PE teacher now, plus.
Yeah, this is my first year as a PE teacher in the district.
First year as a PE teacher in the district. So just share a little bit of your story, Shaun.
Well, we've talked, I'm from Wyoming originally. I grew up here. I kind of moved around the state. I kind of ended up here in Casper when I was in second, third grade. Ended up going to Natrona County High School, where I currently teach and coach, and played football, wrestled, did track, and just didn't know where I was going to go, and didn't have anybody really pushing college and things like that. Nobody ever graduated college in my family. So, my grandfathers were both in the military, both in the Army. So I decided to join the United States Marine Corps. So I left 10 days out of high school. I did that. Was stationed in Washington, D.C., served at 8th and I Marine Barracks.
Wow.
Met a couple presidents while I was in there, did top secret clearance, worked at 8th and I Marine Barracks, where we did ceremonies and parades for different things. Made some bad choices, got in some trouble when I was young, struggled for a while to find my place in the world. Struggled with addiction, struggled with, drugs and alcohol in my life. Got married in 2004 to my wife of 19 years. We're high school sweethearts.
Wow.
She stuck by me. We've been together 23 years. She broke up with me quite a few times when I was young and dumb, and making bad choices. But but we got 3 kids now. She really pushed me to go to college. She was kind of like that driving force for me, and I was like, I want to go to college. So I went to welding school, and I did that. I worked in the oil field, and then 2006 came around, and my oldest daughter was born, and I was missing everything.
Sure.
And I was like, I don't want to do this. So I showed up one day from work, and I was like, hey, sweetheart, how do I go to college? Because she was getting ready to go back that fall. You got to take the ACT. I said, set it up next week. I'm in town. No studying, just went in. Passed just enough to get in. That's all.
Nice.
That's all that matters. And
dude, that's all that matters.
And then went to Utah State for a couple of years. Transferred when she graduated in 2008. Transferred to University of Utah. Lived in Utah for about 10 years. Got my bachelor's degree in athletic training. Got my master's in education, and then I taught for a couple of years at Roosevelt, Utah, at Union High School, and then. I was back here watching a football game, and I was like, man, I want to be back here. And
Nice.
2014 state championship team that year, Logan Wilson was on the team at that time. Watched them play, and I was just like, yeah. So the following year I applied, as a sped teacher, you could pretty much write your check where you want to go in the special ed world. And Came here, taught at Roosevelt High School to start off here at the alternative high school here in town. And I ran the behavior classroom for 4 years, worked with a lot of tough kids. And then I did resource 3 years at Natrona County High School. Okay. And then this year I transferred into the PE department. And then along that way, I've always coached. It's just something that I do and I love working with kids and football players and wrestlers. And, you know, and then this year with girls wrestling evolving and my daughter now wants to wrestle and I'm like freaking excited. And so, it's just been this that's kind of like me in a nutshell over the last 23 years of my life since high school, since I left here. So
wow, that's crazy. You know what I hear in that story? I hear resiliency. Yeah. That's what I hear in that. And it's crazy how, we all think that we have a path, right? And we know that, you look at the Marines and you're sure of it. At the time, you're like, this is what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. Like for me, it was NFL, right? Like it was I went to Michigan State, went to junior college first and Michigan State, 2 years to play. And I actually tell people, I go, how many of you know actually a lot can happen in 2 years, right? And so a lot can happen in one moment. You know what I mean? And so and that we think that's the path, right? But what we actually don't realize is a lot of the things that we go through along the way. Now, I'm not saying that some of those problems aren't self-inflicted, right? Yeah. If you're anything like me, which we've talked before, I think you have been there in the past. If you're anything like me, I was always the type that I had to jump off the cliff myself. If someone would say, you can't go down that road because eventually it'll end and you'll jump off the end, I would be looking backwards, asking them walking down the road. That's just, that's who I was.
Well, you got to see the bottom for yourself.
You got to see the bottom for yourself. And so for me, I saw the path, but I didn't realize that every single thing that I went through was building that resiliency in me, just like it was building that resiliency in you to get to a place where we are today. And it builds us. And it builds us and it builds us up. And so what's cool about also as well, what I love talking to people that are in education because that's what I do, right? Yeah. I created a program in 2018 that changed the way public schools approach mental and emotional health. I'm running it in some schools.
Which is phenomenal, by the way.
I appreciate it, man.
Like that is just such a thing right now that we're all struggling with. So
it's crazy. And so it's been good. I'm in Northeast Colorado. I'm in year 2 of a 2-year contract. We're almost done, actually. We're getting to the tail end of it. But it's been good. We've seen some amazing things. And so I love talking to other educators. Tell me, Shaun, how have you seen education progress since the time you started till now?
Well, I think, with technology and how everything is 1 to 2 minutes and trying to grab kids' attention. And kids can get sucked into this world and not really see what's going on around them. Sure. And they're just struggling. Yep. And you just see this where kids are just sad and depressed and anxiety and depression and behavior stuff that's just, off the chain and with everything like that. It's been crazy, in just 10 years. I know educators have been in the business for 30 years, and hearing their stories and where we've come, but we have to evolve. We do. We have to. Yeah. For that generation. Yeah. I think about my kids. They're right in the mix of it right now.
Absolutely.
They're 13, 15, and 17. Wow. They're right in the heart of, building those relationships, learning how to struggle. How do we have these conversations with these kids? Man. How do we get their attention? And it's tough. It's tough. So.
Well, and that's the crazy thing too. Education has changed. And I always say that it's actually not fitting anymore for this young generation. It has to shift big time. Yes. And even just the type of kids we're dealing with today, right? Back in the day when we were in school and when we played sports, we didn't get it done on the field. We got a boot in our butt. Yes, right? That's what it was. So. Yeah. You can't do that necessarily with some of those kids today.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, no, 1,000%. Like every kid's different. Yeah. You got to be able to read kids. Yeah. And that's a skill. And absolutely. It can be learned. Some people are better at it than others. Yeah. You got to have multiple tools in your toolbox. You just can't have a hammer. Yeah. And when we got the hammer, I remember the hammer. I remember getting, F-bombed as a kid.
Sure.
Like that was normal. That was just, okay, I need to pull my head out of my rear end.
Yeah.
And nowadays you can't, like, that'll literally break a kid's soul, and the things that we say as coaches will stay with kids forever. And we don't know that. Like, they say that like a coach has more impact in just 2 to 3 years than some people have in a lifetime.
Come on.
And think about all the lives that you affect. Like on our wrestling team this year, we had 70 kids.
Yeah.
70 kids.
That's
my
crazy.
sophomore football team, like every year I get about 50, 60 kids.
Yeah.
Every year. And I've been doing this 10 years, that's 400 or 500 kids,
Absolutely.
like just right there in just that little aspect of my universe.
Absolutely. So, and you're with them. So let's say
I'm with them more than I am with my own family.
Well, and they're with you more than they're with their own family.
Yes,
I tell teachers when I go to staff development, like, you got to think about it. During the school year, you get them the most.
Yeah.
Like, so what an amazing opportunity to have an impact on them. Right. Yeah. And so one of the things that I see in this young generation is that lack of resiliency.
Yeah.
Emotional resiliency, mental resiliency. They really just can't do hard things. I love them so much, and they know that about me, that I love them, but they struggle to do hard things. They almost kind of want people to take responsibility for them. And so one of the things that I'm going to ask you is, with resiliency, okay, that's what your story embodies. That's what your family embodies. That's what if you were going to break it down to one word, and from the time it started to what you went through with the Marines, everything else, it's going to be like, I was resilient, right? Some days you didn't know where you're going. Some days you couldn't see through the fog, but you got here. So the question that I ask you is, what is the biggest thing you learned from your story?
I think focusing on the things that you can control.
Take me deeper.
Okay. So
I love that.
I think sometimes as people, we can get worried about what everybody else is saying and getting into all those weeds, and we can only control us, like our attitude, our effort, and how are we going to get through? Yeah. And we get bogged down with all these outside voices, and it can just drag you down. And I was there, and when I was struggling with addiction and things, like, I just wanted to shut it off. So booze and drugs would do that. Like, it would turn the voices off. It would turn the noise down.
Right.
But when it's all said and done, it's still there. And you got to learn to grind through. And grinding is part of that process of being resilient. And just knowing that you got to keep moving forward every single day.
That's big. Control what you can control. And the biggest thing is what your choices, right? The choices you make, you can control that. Yep. Right. The things that you see every day that are in front of you. So many times in this world today, we want to really try to control other people and other things. Yeah. That's why anxiety is so rampant.
Yes.
Anxiety is just it's a lack of what we can't control.
Yeah.
Like that's
it's like all the, I see it all the time. My children, my children, when I say, so I have students that are my kids, right? And then my children,
your actual children that you father,
the ones that I am their actual father. Even though I got a lot of kids at school, they struggle with that. They struggle with trying to control everything that's going around the world, dude, and worrying about the what ifs. And then my grandpa would always say, God rest his soul. He said, well, if frogs had wings, they wouldn't bump their butt on the ground when they hopped.
That's it.
And when kids say that to me all the time, I go, hey, man, I don't know what to tell you, but you can control you, but you can't control Johnny over there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a friend early on, I had a co-host in this podcast very early.
Yeah.
Shout out Beth Hobbs. She literally said, responsibility is your ability to respond.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is amazing.
It's phenomenal.
It's super phenomenal because we're the ones in control, right? Doesn't mean things won't happen to us. Sometimes, and I tell kids all the time, sometimes there's things that just happen to you.
Yeah.
And it's part of life. Like you can't, I say, you're not responsible for the things that happen to you. You're responsible for the healing that you need to do from those things.
Well, and I think too, like part of that process, like things that you can't control that happen to you, it's how you spin it.
Yeah.
That's your control, right? Like
absolutely
learning like the old saying of, if somebody gives you lemons, make lemonade, but just trying to find that positivity. Yeah. And I think we live in such a negative world at times that we focus so much on negativity. Oh yeah. Like the power of positive is such a strong tool.
Oh yeah.
But that's becomes a mindset.
Yeah.
And you have to train yourself to think that way on a daily basis.
Absolutely. No, it is. It's when you go through those things and you have to, because here's the thing, how do you respond to those hard things? How do you bounce back from it, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. So next question for you is, how has your struggles shaped you as a person?
So I wrote down 2 words, and the first one I'll talk about first is empathy. It's really helped me with my personal empathy.
Sure.
To people that struggle don't want you to feel sorry for them, and that's sympathy. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, like nobody really wants that.
Right.
They want empathy. Oh, I hear you. I feel you. I've been there. I understand.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of my things over my life have shaped me to that, where I have this. My wife says I'm like this, like whisperer of kids sometimes. Like I just have this ability to like hear, and I'll go, okay, well, I don't know what they're going through. Yeah. Nobody does. Yeah. Like you don't know what's going on in their mind, what they're struggling with, like what their home life is. Do they have electricity when they get home? Are the bills paid? Yeah. Mom and dad together, or are they divorced?
Right.
Like all these. Eat? Yeah. Can they eat? Right. Like, you know, what clothes are they wearing? Do they feel like they're the stinky kid? You know, all those things make a difference. And having that empathy. You know, I think my struggles have helped me become more of an empathetic person in those scenarios where, you know, maybe somebody that hasn't struggled as much or hasn't had to been as resilient at times might struggle with that a little bit, and they don't understand because they've never been there. Right. They don't know what it's like to be in the lowest of lows. Yeah. Where you don't know how you're going to get up tomorrow.
No, that's it.
And then the other one is hope. You know, hope is that's our job as teachers. Bottom line, hope and empathy and bringing a fire to kids. Yep. You know, and hope I might be the only person that brings it to them that day. Sure. You know, and that's my responsibility. Absolutely. As that teacher, no matter what my job is, as a sped teacher, as a PE teacher, as a coach, wrestling, football, it doesn't matter. If it's a kid in the hallway that I don't even know. Yeah. Saying hello to a kid. Yeah. Giving them, hey, it's going to be a good day. Come on. The sun came up today. Yeah. It's going to be okay. Yeah. You know, and just feeling that, you know, feeling somebody's aura. You know, like we got to be feelers more, you know, and people just worry about so much stuff that like it's okay, like to open up to people and give them hope. And hope is such. So I think, you know, those two, empathy and hope are like the two biggest things, because there was times where I was so low. Like such a struggle. Yeah. So.
Well, and here's the deal. Hopeless leads to more hopeless, right?
Yeah. And it's never ending. It just feeds itself.
It's just that negative cycle of hopelessness. And then it's just doom and gloom everywhere you go. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, we have, I love that, empathy and hope. It's big, right? When you go through things, I did a while back, I did a podcast episode on, I don't know if you've ever heard of introspection.
I've heard of it, yes.
But basically, it's just you're so focused on yourself that you really can't see past anything else. And we're really introspective in today's world. We only think about, well, how's it going to affect me? What am I not getting? What do I need more of, right? And it's very obviously self-centered, different things like that, right? Well, when you go through things, you do have more empathy and compassion, and you're able to look back at someone else that's maybe in the same place you were in, right? And you realize, man, I know what that was like. And obviously hope, right? Being able to give someone something that they may not have had, that there is light at the end of this, even though maybe today it doesn't look like it.
It's there eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes we have to go through that to see that. And here's the thing, that's what builds us as a person, right? Not saying that you just want to get pummeled by life, but there will be hard things.
With that introspective thing that you're talking about, like we lack an attitude of gratitude. Oh yeah. Coach said, Coach Harshman, shout out to him, man. Like that, we preach that with our full attitude of gratitude. Yep. It's hard to be anything else if you're grateful. Yeah. Period. Yeah. It's hard to be anything. You can't be sad and be grateful at the same time. Absolutely. And then that's a choice. You can control that and be grateful and help other people. Dude. And then that'll help you in the process. Yeah. And I think we forget that. You know, we're so worried about getting ourselves, but, you know, that attitude of gratitude makes such a difference.
Dude, that's it. I love it. So you talk about addiction in your story, right?
Yeah.
That was my story for a while too.
Yeah.
Realized addiction wasn't even the thing really, it was the underlining. I always say that really when it comes down to it, addiction is an outward expression of an inward issue, right? It's things we didn't get. It's how we filled the voids in our life. And so one of the things that I want to ask you is, how did you learn to overcome your addiction?
Well, I first had to just know that I am addictive. I have an addictive personality.
Okay.
And it's okay. That's
being aware of that.
Yeah, being aware, and that's okay. It's just what you focus your addictive personality towards. Yeah. Is it good stuff? Is it positive stuff? Or is it bad or negative things? Yeah. And that spiral, trying to get out of that. I just woke up one day, 2004. I remember it was January 2004. I almost died on Outer Drive right here in Casper, Wyoming.
I remember you telling me that.
I shouldn't be sitting here with you. And my wife says, there's a greater purpose for you, Shaun.
Come on.
And it's to share this story and to share. It's okay. I woke up and I said, I'm done. I got to find something else. And through faith in God and process. And it just came over time.
Yeah.
And it's not going to just be instantly. Sure. It's a grind. And I fell in back. There was times in our marriage early on, I've been doing really well for the last, 10, 12 years, but that process, you fall back, you just pick your bootstraps back up and you freaking grind and be resilient and it's okay.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is going to be another day. Yeah. So it's always something. I'm coaching, I'm teaching, I'm doing things, I'm finding positive things to fulfill my life. And then I don't look for those negative things to be taking over me.
To basically fill that void. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that could be anything. I grew up in a house with an alcoholic dad or stepdad, and that was addicted to drugs, and a mom that was a gambler, and steal from me, steal from my sister. Yeah. And all these things, you can blame your environment for only so long. And you got to learn to go, you know what? That's not going to be me.
Sure.
I'm not going to let that be me.
Yeah.
And you have to make that conscious choice.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things I learned later in life when it all made sense to me, and I share this in part of my school assembly, is we only get from our parents what they have.
Yeah. I think I've heard this, Yeah, go ahead.
I think I might have said that to the wrestling team, but also at the same time, we only give what we have. I realized for so many years, I wondered why things weren't really going the way that I maybe thought they should, or, why did I have these struggles and other people don't? Well, it was realized, and I can't really go too far into it on here.
Yeah.
But my mom revealed something to me that made sense. And I was like, whoa. And so when I went to treatment for the second time, I went to 30-day inpatient twice. Once in May of 2011, the other one in January of 2015. The second time I realized that there was something that I finally had to go after, and that was that I can't let my parents, what they gave me, let that be my story. And so I realized that going after the things that my parents gave me and really healing from that, the voids that were inside of me that they couldn't fill, I knew that's what would help me get over my addiction to alcohol. And again, it was that outward expression, the inward issue. The minute I did that, it's been 8 years. I haven't touched it. Not saying that there hasn't been hard times, but I realized that once I got to the actual root issues, that alcohol wasn't even the factor.
Yeah.
And so being able to go after those things, and to me, that is hope. When you just got to heal from the things we've been through, right? And we had wounds. I had a mother wound, right? I'm sure you did too. Yeah. Father wound, right? My parents were in the house, but it just sometimes, even being present, you can still feel alone.
Oh, very much so.
You know what I'm saying? And so the real hope is, okay, not saying I'm never going to be like that, because that's called an inner vow, and we don't want to go there because you end up running into the same thing that you're trying to run from. But being in that situation to say, I want to give my kids something different one day. And that's the situation you're in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To give them something different. And one day when I have kids, I want to be able to give them something different. And I believe that is true empathy and true hope.
Yeah.
Especially hope on the other end of that. So I love,
because they don't even know what it is.
They don't know.
They have no idea.
You're giving them the blueprint.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have to know.
Right.
And I've shared as they've gotten older, I share my story with them.
Yeah.
But they don't understand it to that extent, because they haven't been through it. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to know what I've been through.
Yeah.
And feel that. So,
yeah. Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
We're getting to the end of this thing. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
I was asked this a couple years back, and this is one of the best questions I've ever been asked.
I liked it.
And so I want to ask other people. So, Shaun, if you could go back and tell your 13-year-old self something, what would it be?
Well, I couldn't sum it up in like one or two things. So I kind of just did a bullet point. And it was just kind of this, like, if I had to give myself my 13-year-old something to look at every day, just if he could get up and read this every single day, these 5 things. The first one is you are who you associate with.
Good.
So you associate yourself with good people, you're probably going to make good decisions. It's going to help increase that. If you're around people that are making those other bad decisions, things that you don't want to do, you're probably going to do it because that's who you're around.
Yeah.
You are who you are around.
Yep.
So kindness is a choice.
Ooh, like that.
Kindness is a choice. You can choose to be kind. You can choose to tear somebody down with one word.
Yep.
Like that.
Yep.
And it's easy. So kindness is a choice. Listen fast, speak slow.
It's good.
Don't always be the one that needs to dominate the conversation. Sure. And I struggled with that when I was younger, and I've tried to get better at just listening as I've gotten to truly listen, not wait to speak.
Nope. There's a difference.
Yeah, there is. Don't wait to speak. Truly listen and hear what they're saying.
Right.
And then introspect that a little bit, and then you can speak off of it.
That's good.
So, and then number 4, mental toughness takes 0 talent. You don't have to be the biggest dude, the fastest guy. You can be the toughest dude every single day, because if you make that choice, you could be mentally tough, and you can get through. You can be early to things. That's a choice.
Yeah.
You can be the guy that gets the last rep on the field, or does the extra reps when nobody's around, or does the homework.
You
or
can tell you're a coach.
Oh yeah. to be the guy, like when I was in grad school, I made a mental choice. I'm going to graduate with a 4.0.
Yeah.
And there was times where I wanted to give up, but I said, no, I'm not gonna. I'm too mentally tough for that. Yeah. So take 0 talent to be mentally tough. And then lastly, no matter what life throws at you, the sun will come up tomorrow.
Come on.
No matter what, the sun will come up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because when I was 13 years old, I didn't want to wake up.
Yeah.
I was sad. I was lonely.
Yeah.
I thought I had suicide thoughts.
Yep.
I had mental issues.
Yep.
And I remember that 13-year-old self going, man, I just don't want to be here anymore. Nobody's going to miss me. No, the sun will come up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just keep going. Don't ever give up.
Reminds you, like it says in the Bible, his mercies are new every morning.
Yes.
Right. And so that's big. Dude, I just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing.
I really
your
appreciate
story.
this.
Absolutely.
So it's been fun.
Yeah.
So I've been looking forward to it. So.
It's been a pleasure having you on. All my listeners, I want to let you know you're going to be okay. The dictionary calls resilience like this: the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. When we learn to do hard things and keep walking one foot in front of the other every single day, that's when you will truly become emotionally and mentally resilient. Ask for the help. There's so much gold inside of you that's going to help you walk the greatness outside of you. I want you to let you know that I love you and I'm walking this journey with you. Keep climbing, and I'll see you next time.